I'm sitting in bed watching a movie with my wife in the middle of the night, and my door flies open and I have M16 with laser sights in my face from all directions. These guys were in full SWAT outfits, basically looked like the police, but they weren't. I said to them, "Are you the police?" And they said, "Yeah, we're the police." I said, "Okay, don't hurt her." They hit me in the face with a rifle, pushed me to the ground with a gun in the back of my head, handcuffed me. They took me out into the hallway and asked me for what the combination to the other safe was. I learned later on that one of my workers actually ratted me out to the cartel and told them about the other safe, which was underground. And then one of their guys yelled at them that somebody was coming. They had to get out of there. So they took me upstairs, threw me in the back of a van and threw a blanket over my head and were taking me away. I was pretty sure they were going to take me to kill me somewhere. At that point, my heart was beating so hard that I thought I was going to have a heart attack right under the blanket. They transferred me to another vehicle and they took me to a safe house somewhere, I'm guessing near Tijuana. Put me in a little room that had bars on the windows and a small cot, and just basically left me there overnight. The next day they came to me and said, "What is a combination to the other safe?" And honestly, I didn't even know what the combination was. It was a real difficult safe to get into, and I'd only been in it a few times. So I started trying to explain to them it's difficult to get into the safe, and they said, "Well, we're going to play a little game." I already had a gauze wrapped around my head as a blindfold, so they stuffed more gauze in my mouth and finished wrapping my whole head up, and then they proceeded to use my head as a punching bag for a minute. And then the guy said, grabbed me around the head and pulled me down and said, "I don't want you to think about yourself, think about your family." And then they took the pliers and started yanking my toenail out. That was a little bit painful. So my whole body seized up, went into convulsions, and they did that for a minute. And they said, "Okay, so you're gonna cooperate now." And I couldn't even speak, I had stuff in my mouth, but I'm okay, yeah. So they took the gauze out of my mouth, and at that point I just started making stuff up. I started making up stuff to get into the safe, telling them whatever, anything. So they said, "Okay, you're not lying to us." "Oh, no." I said, "This is how you get in it and whatnot." And I tried to explain it to them, and I think I made up a combination because I didn't know it. I guess they went back there to get into the safe, and I found out later on that they were in my house digging the safe out of the ground with a jackhammer while the DEA was in there documenting it all. So the DEA is in my house, and I have this documented, and they're in there building their case while the cartel is in there digging my safe out of the ground. Asked my family for $1 million, which of course they didn't have it. They brought a kid in there named Oscar. Oscar owned a restaurant, and apparently he had money, and it got into it with him for some reason. Oscar cried for the first 2 days nonstop while they had him. We weren't supposed to communicate, but of course we were. We were also not supposed to look out of our blindfold, but I kept pulling up my blindfold and looking around because I had to know where I was and try to see what was going on. At that point, they had me leg shut with shackles around my legs and my hands, so I really wasn't going anywhere, and the shackles on my legs were pretty tight. They were cutting my ankles, so they were bleeding. They had us in that first safe house for, I want to say, probably 4 or 5 days. And then one night they said that we're going to go somewhere. And they had told me that if they got the money from the safe, which was over $1 million, that they were going to release me. Well, they got the money from the safe, and then they decided they weren't going to release me. They wanted more money. They took me and put us in another van in the middle of the night, and they were driving us to somewhere. They put me on the phone with my brother, I guess to verify that I was alive. And I said to him, "Where is Denise, my wife?" And he said, "We don't know, nobody's seen her," which was actually not true. She was with him, but my brother and the people he was with weren't telling the cartel that my wife was with him because they wanted her too. But they weren't telling me that, so I thought she was dead or something. So I said, "Well, you have to find her." At that point, I was just irritated. Oscar and I started whispering back and forth when they weren't around. I mean, we could hear them with their machine guns and whatnot when they're in different areas. So we started plotting an escape. We realized that these guards, the main guys would come and do their interrogations and tortures and whatnot in the middle of the night. The guys who were guarding us were just kids with machine guns, and they would fall asleep at night. So we realized that would probably be our chance when they go to sleep. Anyways, we were in that house for, 2 or 3 days, and they came and they call them the Jefe, came and interviewed me with literally had a tape recorder hanging from a string in front of my face. And he said, "So we need another $1 million from you. We need your family to give us $1 million." And I said, "They don't have $1 million." And he said, "Well, your family owns jewelry stores." I'm like, "No, they don't. My brother owns a gym." I said, "It's not worth $1 million." he has no way of getting that money. He might as well just kill me now. They moved us to another house. They stopped talking to me for a couple of days. And I realized that was a really bad sign, because basically that means they're not trying to get anything out of me. So the story I had gotten out of the guards from the place I was before was that if you pay, they let you go, and if you don't, they kill you. And my family obviously wasn't coming up with $1 million, so it was probably pretty inevitable they were going to kill me. So I told Oscar, I said, we have to get out of here. So our first plan was, these guys would go to sleep and they had their machine guns, and we thought, well, we would just jump on them and take their machine guns away from them. But that night they fell asleep, and they were actually in the room right in front of us. And I get up and go to the restroom in the middle of the night, and they told me, if you want to go to the restroom, you have to whistle. You can't be on your feet, you whistle, and the guard's going to take you to the restroom. Well, I had been whistling for half hour, and they weren't coming, and I couldn't wait. So I hopped up and I looked out the door, and they're both crashed out in front of the TV, just completely asleep. I literally took myself to the restroom, came back there still asleep. So I was actually looking all around, and I couldn't find the guns. I think they were sleeping on top of them. So I told Oscar, I said, I don't see these guns. And Oscar said, well, you could jump on the one, I'll jump on the other. And Oscar was a skinny guy, and I didn't trust that. I was like, no way. You know, you're gonna jump on that guy, he's gonna come up with a machine gun and shoot you and then shoot me. I said, look, they're asleep. We could just literally walk right out past them. And before I did that, actually, I went through the other hallway to the back, and it was locked, but it went down into a garage, and I saw a couple body bags down there. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. So I told Oscar, we'll just walk out right past him and just walk out of this place. You know, it's too risky. I said, listen, staying here is too risky. I said, I'm going. You can come or not. I said, you want me to go first? You want to go first? He said, you go first. So I literally tiptoed my way right past this guy, down the hallway, down the stairwell. And actually, because I was sitting for so long on the ground, my knees were squeaking, going past him, making all kinds of noise, cracking, because he had been sitting on the ground for all this time. But they didn't wake up, and I tiptoed right down the stairs, out the door, and I was in a courtyard, and there was a big fence around it, and the only gate was an electric garage door. And I didn't want to push it because I didn't want to make noise, so I was looking around to see, you know, how I was going to get out of here, and here comes Oscar. And I said, there's no way out of here but that door. And he's like, it was a gate fence that was probably about 11 feet high, and he's like, lift me up, boost me over this fence. So I lift him up, and Oscar actually was so skinny he could get his hands out of the handcuffs. He already had his hands out of the handcuffs. I couldn't do that. I lifted him up, he scaled that fence, and he came down on the other side, boom, making all kinds of noise, and dogs in the neighborhood started barking, and he looks at me through the fence, and he just takes off. I'm just like, pfft. Well, now I don't have a choice. The dogs are barking. So I push that garage door, it comes scooting open, and I slide under there, and I'm chasing down the road following Oscar, barefoot in the middle of the night, just running down this broken down road in the middle of nowhere. And I catch up to him, and I never ran so fast in my life. I didn't care. I was barefoot, running over glass and whatnot. I was hauling. So I chase Oscar down the road, and I catch up to him, actually, and there was a cab pulled up in this street, and the cab looked at me and him and just drove away. So we kept running down the road, and there was a bus depot of some sort right next to a main road, and Oscar ran into the bus depot, and he kind of disappeared. I don't know where he went. So I run out on the main road, and I'm trying to wave down cars, but no one's stopping, so I just keep going down the road, and there's a taco stand on the side of the road. And I run in there, and there's like 20 of these Mexican guys sitting there eating tacos. Here I come in there with, you know, blood all over me, handcuffs, and my underwear, rag on my head, and they're like, sit down and have a taco. I'm like, no, I kidnapped. You have to help me. And they're like, oh, sit down and have a taco. I'm like, no, kidnapped. They go, you want us to call police? I'm like, no, the police are kidnappers. Well, I didn't tell you that part. People don't know this, but the cartel is the police. They don't work with the police, they are the police. In the daytime, they put on their police uniform, and the night they go around kidnapping people. They're the same guys. I know because I was with them, and they basically told me that while I was talking to them the whole time. I'm like, no police. And actually, people that live down there know this. They get it. People here that don't believe that, but that's how it is. I told these guys, take me to the border, I'll pay you. So they're like, all right, come on. So they put me in the back of this van. They said, which border you want to go to? And I said, Oda Mesa. So they took me to Oda Mesa border. We pull up there. I jump out, and I run up to the border, and I'm like, American citizen, let me in. They looked at me like, he's like, what are you doing? Why are you like this? I'm like, kidnapped. Open the freaking gate. Let me in. So the guy checks me out for a minute, and he comes down, and they take the handcuffs off me. And then the two guys that brought me to the border, they bring them inside. And I said, no, they're cool. They helped me get here.